Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to Let's Play Every Day. I'm Tim McNiff, and I get to hang out with the likes of Alexis, Pearson, Tanishka, Mhaskar, and the man, the myth, the legend, Darrell Thompson, who's back in familiar climes again. DT, how was the trip to Bloomington,
Hey,
Indiana?
it would have been a lot better had they won the game, So that's to lose on a last second 3-pointer on senior night when your son's a senior is emotional for your son, as Alexa was talking about. Your kid being tied up. But watching your kids play, it's a blessing, and it's also challenging sometimes. But it was a great trip, and he's had a great career in Indiana, and we'll see how things go going forward.
So we were talking, what Daryl's referring to is we were talking before we came on and talking about watching your children play sports, as a parent. And when my kids were coming up, I mean, I was, Daryl, you must have this all the time because I was on TV at the time. So if I would go there, I couldn't like say anything. I would just sit there as impassive as possible and not try to show. But one time I went and watched the game. My wife was back. She had family coming to her house. And I went to watch one of my daughters play soccer, and she was on defense. And I'm not kidding you guys. She was directly responsible for a half dozen goals against her team. It was like, so we get in the car afterwards, and I'm expecting her to have sort of this breakdown sort of thing. I'm like, so how are you doing? As I'm driving the car, and she's like, yeah, I'm good. And I was like, what do you mean you're good? Right. I couldn't say that, but I was like, who is this person? And why are you not sweating this out? So you never quite know what to expect. I did tell you this. I expected a win out of our boys last night in Philadelphia, and you watch that puck go in a couple minutes in the second shot on goal, and I was like, oh,
here we
God. Yeah, you're right, Tanishka. Exactly what I said. Here we go. What in the world?
So I said this in my Buttes breakdown for last night's game, but I was on the verge of a breakdown after that goal went in. And I'm a very optimistic person. Anybody who knows me knows that when especially when it comes to sports, I will die on the hill of my teams. I don't care what you tell me. I will tell you they have a chance to win. They've got a chance to do this, do that, break this record, whatever. And the Wild have broken me the last week and a half. And when that first goal went in, I was like, I don't even care that there's 58 minutes left in this game. I can't do this. And I was just so stressed the whole game. And then every time the Wild tied it, the Flyers went up again, and then they tied and they went up again. I'm like, I'm so stressed out. And it was a game the Wild needed to win. Albeit I would have liked a little bit more dominant performance, but I'm not going to complain because I thought they played well. Talbot was disappointing yesterday, but the Wild ended up coming out on top, and especially on the front end of a back-to-back in a stretch of games where you've been struggling to get wins. It was a must-win game, and I don't say that very often in sports, especially in hockey and basketball where there's 82 games in a season. But last night was a must-win for the Wild.
It was just, I feel like just with Talbot, I thought the team overall played pretty well, but Talbot, the first two periods were really, really bad. It was 4 goals on 16 shots, 17 shots. I don't remember what it was, but it was really bad. And then the third period was really good because I think it was 12 or 13 shots. I don't remember for sure, but he tightened up a bit, which they really needed. So it got better at the end, but I'm still not really happy with the goalie situation in general.
No, well, I don't think anyone's happy with the goalie situation. Yeah. I'm a total fair weather fan when it comes to hockey, but I mean, I think we just got to, when you get a win, you got to take it. You got to ride that momentum in your sport and try to build on it. So I mean, I believe in Bill, the GM. I'm sure he's got a plan. I'm sure he's got things going on, but he can't divulge everything. But I would imagine that something's in the works.
Man, but where? I mean, just the goalie situation is bad, but a lot of people haven't been scoring, and there was just a couple of plays, passes that were and that turned, and guys not back checking, and guys standing right in front of the net for easy goals, and back to Talbot just for that. He does appear just completely lost. And this is a lot like what we saw with Capo last year when he had that 9-game losing. He just looks lost. He's it's things that you would, the first goal where the guy's coming in, he's past the pipe. He's not even feeling it. I mean, he's just lost in his crease. So Darrell, I guess you say you're not an expert, but you've been there at the highest level with quarterbacks. When you're in the middle of the game and you're playing against a team that maybe is better than you or better than you in a certain area, and the guy's getting overwhelmed, but you need him. That's who you've got. As a teammate, what do you do?
Well, you got to get back to fundamentals. I mean, and what you're talking about is fundamentals, and that's really, really important in every single sport. Say, guys, can't cross your face, can't cross your face in hockey, can't do it in basketball, can't do it in football, and that's what it sounds like. There's like basic fundamental breakdowns of, you talk about not back checking. It's just like, got to have your hands on people, you got to be physical, got to let them know you're here, and you got to play with confidence and believe in yourself. And right now, they've got to get back to basics, believe and trust in each other, and also play fundamentally sound hockey if you're going to have success, because good teams play fundamentally sound in every sport.
Mm-hmm. I think the weird thing for Talbot, and I've been more lenient with the goalie situation this year than I think a lot of Wild fans have been. That is starting to change in the last week here, where I'm starting to notice some trends that I didn't notice before, because every goalie will have bad games or make a bad play, but I'm starting to see some trends. And when I see trends in sports, that's when I get concerned. But the weird thing with Talbot is, and they've talked about this, I think, on the Bally broadcast, I've seen people tweeting about it, is when he's good, he's great. And when he's bad, he's horrible. There's like no in between for him. And when you look at his stats when he wins games, he, like, before the Wild went on this little losing streak, his last 4 wins before that, he had like a 95% save percentage, a 1 point something goals against. Like, that's elite stats for a goalie. And then when he loses games, his goals against is like, 3.5, and he's given up over 4 goals a game on, I mean, it's just like the stats are bad when they're bad and they're great when they're great. And I think that's what's frustrating Wild fans is seeing that there's the potential there and him not being able to get to it. And I saw a lot of people making Devin Dubnyk comparisons last night, like Devin Dubnyk late career Minnesota Wild comparisons, which is not a good sign if you're Cam Talbot, not a good sign if you're Wild fans, and especially down the stretch when you're going to have a lot of games you're playing. You're still trying to rack up points here. Your playoff position isn't secure anymore. No. You need your goalie to win you games. Agreed. And Cam Talbot needs to figure out how to get back to that, because it's going to be a tough 2 months here if he can't.
Yeah, the comparisons with Dubnyk are not unfounded, because how many games have we seen now with him recently where the first or second shot goes in and it says that was Doobie, and
or the Wild score and then they give up a goal 20 seconds later. It's like, you can't do that.
No, and so when we started this whole journey and we got into Wild season, I was so like Capo and want to be right because me. And JP was like down on both goalies, and I think she's actually here.
Right.
So I wanted her to be wrong and me to be right. And watching this whole Capo thing, too, is he hasn't been that much better. I mean, he's even the wins that they got, he seems like he's fighting the puck. So sort of like tonight's game, they should have beat the Flyers and they escaped. Let's face it, they did. Now you got Buffalo tonight. This is another game on paper you win. Right. I'm almost like you got to put Talbot back in rather than go to Capo, because I think it's like getting thrown from the horse. He's got to get back on the horse. Am I wrong? I mean, probably, but I mean, I'm interested in your opinion on this, because I'm normally a Capo guy, but I almost feel like, do I want him to sit after that game last night? I'm not sure I do.
I think.
Go ahead, Tanishka.
I feel like just with the third period too, I could see him get better then. So I feel like if they wanted to just ride that wave and let him start versus Buffalo tonight, I wouldn't be completely against it, and see if he can just pick up where he left off at the end. But that might be probably a good thing, because I think I'd prefer Capo like later on. I think next week there's some tougher games, so.
Yeah, it's nothing against him if he doesn't play tonight.
Right. I think with goaltending, the weird thing about goalies is you have to, I mean, because some goalies play so infrequently, you always hear people talking about riding the hot hand, and goalies need that consistency. Even the best goalies need that consistency to feel comfortable, because their position has so much more of a spotlight on it than a lot of the other positions on the ice. So when they're playing poorly, everyone's on. It's like a quarterback. When they're playing poorly, everybody's on them. When they're playing great, they're like the next coming of Jesus, right? Like that's how people treat goaltenders. And so I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like Tanishka said, you've got some tougher matchups coming up against some better teams. So if this is a game where I would maybe be okay with rolling the dice of putting back in Talbot for the second night of a back-to-back against a team who you should be beating. But I wouldn't be opposed to them throwing Capo in either for the same reason, actually.
No, and there's your partner in crime. She's like, you got to get Capo some work, and I'm not against it, but I just felt like at the end of that game last night, even though the puck wasn't going in the net, I really didn't feel like Cam was just like looking like an NHL goaltender out there last night. So maybe I thought, well, if you get another bad team, is you get a softer game than Buffalo? I don't know. There's not that many more opportunities like that are going to present themselves.
It's a hard spot. It's a hard spot. I don't in other sports, hockey and soccer, the goalie is a lonely position, and if you're a point guard or a center or a quarterback, even a quarterback, hey, we're going to run some easy stuff. Let's get you going, a little play action, get you on the edge, just like a little 3-yard pass, a little 7-yard slant. You're the goalie, like pucks are flying at you. Okay, it's soccer, the ball's flying. So we can't run anything to get your confidence. To get your mojo back. You guys pucks fly up and go, okay, yeah, I'm back in the groove. This is what I've been doing since I was, 6-7 years old. A goalie, you got to hope they get some momentum going early, deflect a couple pucks and feel good, and hear a couple you demand from your teammates and your coach, and until that happens, I think it's going to be really tough, because you can't pull a rabbit out of a hat. You can't just magically bring another goalie in and make a difference, because no one's gonna. I wouldn't give one up right now either. Yeah, you could have our playing Marvel.
Yeah.
Well, JP's doing her best. See Willie Miles. She moved. She was another one in there. There you go. Say it, guys. JP was right about the goaltending. Roll back the tapes.
JP is right.
But I don't know that I want them to make a big trade or anything with where the goalies are concerned, because I think we have our goaltender of the future. If you've seen this kid, that they drafted last year, he's it.
Yeah.
And what do you want to mortgage or give up, to get another 30-something goaltender? I mean, unless you're swapping Talbot for somebody else's person in the same boat, but hope that they'll play different or better. I mean, I just don't think that's where, if you're making a trade at the trade deadline, I still don't think that's it.
I think that's what's frustrating Wild fans, is they feel like something needs to happen, but they don't know what the answer to that is. And even us who, follow these teams and work with these teams, it's like, I don't know what the answer is, because it's just say you want to get rid of Talbot. If you're in the boat of, I want to trade Talbot or I want a new starting goaltender, what are you going to get if you try to do just a straight up trade, right? You're going to get another Talbot. And if you don't do a straight up trade, then you have to throw in assets or picks or all this other stuff. And a lot of Wild fans, I think, would agree right now, they're not really interested in giving up some of these prospects and picks that have been getting a lot of people excited. So you're kind of in between a rock and a hard place with this. And I mean, I still think, I'm not like turning on the goalies yet. I'm starting to notice some trends, like I said, that I don't like, but I do know there's a lot of time left in the season. And if they can get back to some of what we saw earlier in the season, well, then you're fine, right? So it's like, you just got to see what happens. We still got a little bit of time before the trade deadline. And I mean, it's easy to talk about trades, but at the end of the day, there's so much that goes into it that it's not as easy as just saying, I don't want this guy on the team anymore and I want that guy instead. It's not that simple, unfortunately. And Bill Guerin might have some work to do here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I think in the next couple of weeks and, for the foreseeable future, I mean, they made a couple of moves in the offseason. The Parisi and Suter was huge. And they started out better than I think I was hoping that they were going to. But, I mean, I think we got a reality check last week, didn't we? I mean, we saw Calgary twice, and it's just looking at them and like, I mean, we might make one trade, but we're not Calgary. Calgary is built for, what's to come. And I just don't I think we're a year or two away from that. My opinion. I don't think we're them.
I think it takes a while to build anything that's going to take a while. And Bill's not really been here that long. It's been 2 or 3 years. I think it's going to take a while to have. He's made a pretty big impact on the organization. Feels like to me from afar. So I think it's going to take a little bit more time. And we're not. I guess we've never won a Stanley Cup here. So it's going to take a minute to get there. I saw that, Tim.
Well, and I think that Wild fan, I always try to remind myself this, because since Dean took over, since Bill took over, the Wild have overachieved by the standards of, NHL media, by NHL fans. And so now they've set this, everyone expected them to either be a bubble team. Some people, I think 2 years ago, they were predicted to be dead last in the league. And then they're still a playoff team. They're still doing this. They're still doing that. And so when they don't perform at that level, everyone's frustrated, but people got to keep in mind they were projected to still be years away from any kind of real success as far as winning a Stanley Cup goes. So I know it's frustrating. I feel the frustration too of like, you see the glimpses of what we could maybe have more consistently in the future. But like DT said, this stuff takes time to build, and you might see some of the glimpses earlier than that. But when all is said and done, you still might be a few pieces away before you can actually have that success.
And I'd still rather live and die with this version of this hockey team this season than what we watched for like the last 8 or 10, whereas like we lost 3-2 again.
Yeah.
Just like, no,
and that's why I'm like okay with not trading like a first round pick or just a lot for a rental, because I just don't think that this is the year that they need to go all in. I'd rather just roll with this core, see how far you can make it, and then just like keep adding to your team with the drafting, because it's been really good drafting and the prospect pool is really good. So you can get through that and be a really good team even through the bad buyout years.
Yeah, I agreed. And I think Boldy's shown us that, young players can come up and can contribute right away. I think these kids play so much hockey now, and with their conditioning and weightlifting, it shouldn't be a 3-year process to get them up to the NHL if they've got that sort of talent. So if hockey is not your thing, and we just spent our first 20 minutes talking about it, you got hoops option tonight, because we got our Timberwolves back in action. And to say how far I've come on this, I'm like, they're not playing tonight? When are they playing then?
That was me the other night.
Literally.
Right?
I never said that before this year. So like,
no. And now we've got them in two really interesting, sort of same situation as the Wild, in the sense that they're playing at Oklahoma City tonight against a team that is absolutely decimated by injuries. And then they've got a Portland team coming here tomorrow. It used to give them a lot of problems. Anthony Edwards has a knee issue and is going to sit out tonight's game at least. So these are winnable games, but this is like similar to the Wild. This is where they have an opportunity to really build that case for being in the playoffs. Am I right?
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think it's funny. I got an invitation to go to the Wolves game, and I was like, well, who are they playing? I used to be like, who are they playing? Oh, okay. Sounds like good. I'll be there. But now I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to go. If I'm available, I want to go to the Wolves game. I'm going, in like in a couple weekends. But I think you're right, Tim. This is a time where we have an opportunity to build and, have a legitimate, not a play-in game. We want to actually be in the playoffs and play some meaningful games and have bring them energy back to the city. So I'm, I've always been a Wolves fan. I'm even more of a Wolves fan right now.
I think too with the Wolves, like when when I saw the other day that Ant was out, like I think a lot of people would like panic, when one of their star players is out. But the thing that's been awesome about the Wolves this year is that they've had so many different guys step up on so many different nights that it's almost not as much of a panic situation when one of your big players is out. I mean, think about all the nights where D'Lo has stepped up, or Beasley or Cat. I mean, it's like, it almost feels like somebody different every night. I mean, there's been games just a week and a half ago, Ant had like 3 points on the night, and that was it. And the Wolves still won. And it's like that normally, I mean, when a team's star player isn't shooting like they should, or getting the points like they should, you more oftentimes than not are probably going to lose. And that hasn't been the case with the Wolves this year. And I've said it a couple times, but I mean, just the absolute like swagger and fun the Wolves play with this year is so much fun to watch, that even like in a game where they lose, I'm like, I enjoyed watching that. That was a fun game. Like I really, enjoy watching these guys play, and they seem to care about each other and have fun with each other. And that's something that Wolves fans haven't had a chance to experience in a long time. And so it's been a really fun season.
Yeah, I just think Monday's game against the Cavs was like super indicative of like the depth that they had, because they had like literally like half of their players had more than 10 points. Like Prince had like 15, McDaniels had 17, Pat Bev had 11. And it's just like Ant hasn't been like super he got out of his slump a little bit this week, but he hasn't been the same, especially with that knee too. So I think that they can afford to rest him for these next few, because it is a lighter part of the schedule. But I still think that if they want to get up to that 6th spot, they might just have to win all of them, or drop one at the very least, because I think they're 2 games behind the 6th spot right now. But yeah, I don't know. They've been really, really fun just with the teams, because I thought the 4-game stretch that they went into last week, I thought that would be pretty defining, just to see how good they actually were. And for them to go 3-1 did surprise me a little bit, because I thought 2-2 would have been great.
Well, in regards to them, aiming for that 6th seed, I can't remember which player said it, but just this week they were talking about, they were like, coach wants us to get into that 6th seed. And they were like, we want the 5th one though. And I love that like tenacity. And again, not something we've seen like for the last however many years. The Wolves would have settled to be, be in the last seed or to be even a bubble team. And now they're like, no, we want more. And I think that is a big indication of a shift that we've seen in this team because, they haven't been the best team all season. They've lost some games to teams they shouldn't have, and they've had some tough battles. But the fact that at this point in the season, they're like, this isn't good enough. We want, the next step above that. That's a really good sign, in my opinion.
So I caught that too, and that really struck me. And the other thing that really got me this week was the night that Cat scored 39. He was interviewed on the court after the game, and right at the end of it, he said, we really want to win this, and we wanted to win it for Minnesota. And it was like right away, I'm just like, you hooked me, and I'm just like, we want it for you, Cat, because you've been here for 7 years, and and I'm there for Cat now. It's like earlier in the year we had the thing about with Willie not being his team. I did. I'm just like, because I had seen the numbers, but he disappeared at key moments and all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, he's not really a real inside guy, and he's still not. They took him away from it, but they played to his strengths and made other teams adapt to him, which I think is genius. Good move by Finch. I'm about it. But I didn't, I want this for him and for them because, like you said, Alexis, at the beginning of this whole thing, these guys really seem to like each other. They really seem to be okay with whoever steps up and plays well that night. They celebrate it. It's been a really fun thing to watch. I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
Speaking of end, the Gopher women's basketball team one and done at the Big Ten tournament. So they have 3 recruits coming in next year. 3 really highly regarded recruits. All seem to kind of play the same position. They need to get a big from the transfer portal. And I know we're not supposed to ever say anything bad about our legends, but I expected more from this season, and I expected more harmony from a Lindsay Whalen team, and I didn't see it again. We had one player leaving the beginning. I know Darrell transfer portal's a thing, and you know that more than us. But one prominent player does it in the middle of the season, and the other one does it right before you play your Big Ten game. That's lobbing a hand grenade. That's like blowing up your teammate and your coach and your program on your way out the door. So are you guys as concerned about not only this season, but I mean the direction of the program?
Well, I think the hardest part for all of us that we got to realize is Lindsay's never been a head coach before. So to become a college head coach at a big school, a big time program, is a challenge. And I think that there's some bumps and some learning curves and coaching and recruiting and coaching styles and all the other. I don't know if it's a problem, but Lindsay was a phenomenal player. She was like, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. I mean, it's not easy to come over on the sideline and be like, well, just bring the ball up and just kind of work it around, find an open person, get in sync. And Lindsay just did it. It was innate. I've been hearing about Lindsay since she was in like 6th grade, friends were talking about her. So she's a phenomenal player. And I think she's getting there, and it's taken a while. And hopefully, I think she's going to get the time. I don't think, she's on a hot seat or anything, but hopefully she gets the time and to figure everything out to being a head coach, the nuances, the little things, the notes, the conversation with players and how to deal with the modern players. And the transfer portal is a mess. I don't really know much about it other than it's got to be entertaining and also frustrating for coaches because a player can be like, I'm going to go in the portal because you sat me down because I had 4 fouls or I think I should have stayed in the game. And I guess I'm going to leave, and I'm sure someone else is going to want me. So I've taken up enough time, but that's my piece on that.
And I think DT makes a great point there. It's funny because when we, interview people on our podcast who went from player to coach, I always love asking the question, what did you have to do? What did you learn about yourself in that transition? Because a lot of people just assume that because you were the super talented athlete that, the transition to a coach must be so easy and you can make all these other athletes just like you because you have all the skill and now you're in the position to teach and to do all of this. And it's not that easy sometimes. And especially, depending on the level level that you're coaching at, it can be difficult for a variety of reasons. So it is disappointing that the season, I think, didn't go as smoothly as a lot of people expected it to, or as successfully as people thought it might. But like DT said, I think you got to definitely keep that in mind, that there's maybe still some adjustments to be made before we reach that level of like cohesiveness that people are looking for in this team.
And I think I'm one of those people who's guilty of this, because I would never have expected Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson to be a great head coach, because they just did stuff that ordinary humans just don't do. How can you coach a kid to do what you just did? But I always thought of Lindsay as this coach on the floor. She had all the other things, but she saw the game, and I thought, so I guess my expectations were for more, faster, sooner. Probably my fault, not hers. So
she's actually closer to probably like Magic Johnson. I mean, she did some things that she did stuff that you're not supposed to be able to do. Not Michael Jordan, but Magic. I mean, her passes, her vision, something.
You're right.
She's like, didn't you see that? It's like, well, I would have thrown the 3/4 court bounce pass. And like, well, I didn't see it, So you get into it, and how do you, all the one-on-ones and the, when to yell at someone, when not to yell at someone, all those pieces it's a challenge, it's just a challenge. And she's never done it. She's 39 years old. It's her, first coaching job. She didn't get to start off. She didn't get to coach some AAU games just to deal with, someone didn't show up. I got to deal with this. Now you got, just throw right in, all the people on you. Go to a press conference. Yeah, I'm Lindsay Whalen. I used to be the greatest player in the history of the program. I'm here to turn this program around. We're going to win a championship. And I just lost Paige to UConn.
Yeah. And now the kid at Benilde St. Margaret, that's the next one, who supposedly have a bigger version of Paige Beckers at Benilde St. Margaret, who's a junior. And Oriama's spending just as much time in the gym at BSM for her as he did with Paige at Hopkins, but I digress. Okay, so before we get out of here, we just have a couple minutes left, and we know that the combine is going on, and the Vikings brain trust is there. All sorts of things might happen with this team. I don't think they're tipping their hand or really yet, but Tanishka, you aren't waiting for them. You went on Twitter this week, and you just kind of bared your soul where Kirk Cousins is concerned. For those who missed it, if you could summarize your take.
I basically just feel like they won't, I don't think the idea that they might be waiting for Rodgers to make his decision or just anything like that really matters, just because they shouldn't be looking at another team and what they're doing just to go in, because even if they win the division, if you're still not good, you're not going to win in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter too much. I just think that the one thing that I noticed is that Kwesi was super committed to Hunter and was he's somebody we're looking to work with in the future. I think I quoted that. He said that. But when it came to Kirk, he didn't really say anything. He said that he was their quarterback, but because he was under contract, I'm probably just reading into this too much. But if you compare it to just what the Dolphins said, they're yeah, Tua is our guy. The Deshaun Watson thing is closed. And then on the other side, Indy's basically indicated that Wentz is not their guy, and they'll be looking to get rid of him very soon. The Vikings haven't done either. So they've basically kept all options open, but the one quote that really stuck out to me was Kwesi saying that Kirk will do what's best for Kirk and the Vikings will do what's best for the Vikings. So I just think it'll just end up being an extension if he takes a pay cut. If not, they'll probably just send him to the highest bidder, or they'll just let him play it out. But I mean, I don't think that you're going to see an extension at $40 million a year. I just don't think they would do that with everything that we've heard so far.
Yeah, but where I'm going with this is you had a definite opinion on what you wanted them to do.
Oh yeah, I want him.
What? I don't know what that was. My hands are right here. So you want him gone. Oh, we lost you.
You're muted, Tanishka.
Yeah, you muted yourself, or your mic gone off somehow.
Yeah, no, I want him gone. Yeah.
That's where I was going with this whole thing, because I was laughing, and Willie got in there on that too, and kind of goaded you on this whole thing too. And yeah. I think a lot of people are where you are. I mean, I think we've had a month or two to kind of get over the Vikings a little bit. But yeah, near the end of the season, I was just like, God, do I really want to
And
go
I-
through 16 more games of this?
It's just not that easy, though. You know, you have the cap hit and you got all those other pieces. So what you got to decide, are you going to extend him and try to trade him, or one of those things? Because it's not an easy thing. And you know,
No.
to Baker
It's not.
Mayfield, do you want the trade? I mean, there's some options that people are talking about, but it's not a very easy. It's not an easy deal. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, let's just get around, but it's not. It's just it's not that easy when you know you have $45 million involved.
Mm-hmm.
But he might be the best one on the market because I still don't. I mean, it's not sure, but I still don't think Rodgers is going anywhere. Wilson isn't going anywhere. Jimmy Garoppolo is having shoulder surgery soon, so like his values, like you don't know if he's even going to be ready to play in September. I don't know what's up with like Derek Carr. So like,
Would you take Garoppolo over Cousins?
What?
Would you take Garoppolo over Cousins?
I mean, it depends on price tag.
And for how long?
Just for a year,
yes.
because I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo to be the future of the Minnesota Vikings.
No.
Just for a year until you can draft a QB and get the guy you want to bank on for the future.
I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I don't think he's better than Cousins, but like
I do.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So
You
would you
think
take
Jimmy
him
is?
long term, DT, or would you be like where Tanishka's saying, like you'd maybe take him for a year?
I might take him long term. Yeah, I think he's a great quarterback. I keep drafting and looking, but I'd give him a chance. I mean, the young guy's been to the Super Bowl. He seems to learn. He's getting better. Every single lady in town would be all over it. They love him. Come on, bring him on in.
I just think with the Vikings this year, like with all of the changes they've made to the front, like to the office and stuff, like I think Vikings fans, regardless of if you're like, I mean, I know there's a lot of people who are kind of in between on Kirk, like they go back and forth between loving him and hating him. But for the people who are anti-Kirk and the people who are on the fence, I think they might just lose their patience with the team. Like you said, Tim, like, can I do this for another 16 games, right? Like you made all these other changes, but then this big one that everyone's been talking about is a potential issue for the last couple of years. You just don't even address that or don't do anything with that. I think you might, not that you'd lose a bunch of fans, but I do think people would be very vocal about that, very frustrated, because it's kind of like, you know, if you're going to do it, like go all the way kind of thing, right? And it seems like the Vikings are still halfway in between, whether that means, you know, you do something with Kirk or you look into drafting or whatever it is, the decision you make. If nothing happens, if they just stay pat with the quarterback situation, I think a lot of fans are going to be very, very angry.
I think I'm okay with that. I'd rather that than an extension because I think I can handle 17 more. But if I know that like our next 3 years are going to be tied to him, I don't know if I could do that.
If you don't do the
extension
extension,
would hurt.
then you almost have to keep him because that's just,
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's invaluable on because you want to get something for him.
True.
So that's the rub. You have to give to get.
So I like what they're doing. I mean, they're not tipping their hand one way or the other. I still know Denver desperately needs a quarterback. I know other teams, 6, 7 other teams want to upgrade if they believe the numbers, if they think they can do it better with them. I know the Vikings are going to have to soften the blow. They're going to have to absorb at least some of that contract. I expect it, but I think it's time to move on. I mean, I just think if we got a new start and all the rest of this, I just don't think he's the guy.
I just think that this year or next season, 22, they aren't really going to be contending, even if they keep him, extend him, lower the hit, because the roster just isn't very, like the defense especially is just not good. And like you can draft people, you can maybe sign people if they free up some money, but like you're doing the same thing, and that's literally insanity. So that defense is a couple years away at the very least. And offensively, they have pieces, which is a good thing because when they do get the new rookie, whenever it is, they can evaluate him pretty quickly just because of everything they have around him. And I just don't see how Kwesi has a 4-year contract. I don't see how he can bank the major years of his probably only opportunity being GM on Kirk Cousins of all people.
On the other hand, do you flip it and put it on a rookie or somebody you're bringing in from somewhere else? Because you're
I'm choose Kirk. He inherited Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know, and I'm like, I don't think this quarterback class is as bad as people think it is. If somebody's put in
the,
at 12, they're going to have some options.
Mm-hmm.
They really are going to have some decisions to make. So, all right, you guys, this was great. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys being here today. So, Alexis, We're not going to have you next Friday. Tell us why.
Correct. Because I will be at the Let's Play Hockey Expo with Jesse. Barn on Beauty's podcast will be there all day Friday, all day Saturday. We're bringing guests in to do some live recordings with stuff, asking people to come by, hang out with us. And we'll be doing some giveaway stuff, all that fun stuff, chatting with listeners. So if you're going to be at the Let's Play Hockey Expo, stop by. If you're not, make plans to be there because it's going to be a fun weekend.
There you go. I want to make sure we got that out there. Tanishka has had a change in schedule. You're no longer going to be with us on Mondays, but you haven't seen the schedule yet, but I've got you on Thursday, Friday. So I'm looking very much forward to putting you with Tyler Furness and being able to talk a lot of football and draft, going forward. And Darrell Thompson, you're just Darrell Thompson. You're the man, the myth, the legend. You're smooth jazz. And I'll take you whenever I can get you.
You guys are too much. Hey, it's been a great day. Good to see you guys. I got to run.
See you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching, y'all. Appreciate you. This is Let's Play every day. Have a great weekend.